Greetings, Culturians, and welcome back to the channel. Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate. I will say this, Disney is not getting a Merry Christmas gift, neither is James Cameron. I have a feeling that Avatar Fire and Ash is going to do what I said it was going to do, which is underperform in a way they weren't prepared for. In fact, we'll take a look at what happened over the course of this box office weekend and where this may end up going, because it ain't going great. On that note, here we go. Now, before we get started, just a quick reminder, double check you're still subscribed to the channel. If not, do so now. It really does help me, and I would truly appreciate it. I'll just say thank you, and I'll ask you to hit the thumbs up button right now, because there's no better time than the present. On that note, we're going to jump into the articles, because they actually say a lot about what did or didn't happen this weekend. And from Deadline, Nancy wants to tell you that, hey, $345 million global opening, international box office, huge. And you know what? That's not exactly wrong. She's telling you the truth. But what should tell you more truth is where we are now. When we were jumping into this particular pond of fire and ash, we knew that Disney was churning towards a $6 billion global number when it came to this year's box office performance. David did really well, seeing $22 million from Angel Studios. They have a disaster coming up on their hands in the near future with Animal Farm, but at least this other film, Housemaid, is, doing okay as well. At least these two films, which weren't expected to do extraordinary, did okay. Now, let's look at what Variety says. Avatar Fire and Ash ignited $36.5 million. That's not very impressive. We'll get to why in just a moment. But that opening day is significantly behind the last film, The Way of Water. Now, this film maybe spent about the same amount of money. The last film, Way of Water, spent, I think, over $400 million in its production. I have no idea if it was similar in cost. This one is anywhere close to that, but it honestly doesn't matter. These films make extraordinary amounts of money, but they cost extraordinary amounts of money. Let's take a look at what what Variety actually says it did overall for the weekend. $88 million domestic. Okay, that doesn't sound as big as they were hoping for. They were thinking about a range somewhere around $85 to $95 million for this performance, and it just didn't quite get there, finishing on what they're going to say is the lower range. In fact, 95 million US bow. Globally, it crossed $100 million. That's where their focus was, right? But that's not what genuinely happened. You ended up with $88 million. And they're saying over at Hollywood Reporter, the race is far from over. All of that may be true. This opening weekend was the second best of 2025. All of these are true pieces of information, but you have to ask yourself, can this hang on? Can this perform domestically like the last two Avatar films did? Well, let me refresh your memory. $88 million on an opening weekend isn't a ton of money. 345, that's a lot of money, but again, what did it cost to make? Well, let's take a look at The Way of Water in comparison. It made $134.1 million domestically when that film opened over the course of its opening weekend. This is not the same, and started off $5 million slower to start with. How much are you less in this situation? $40 million. There is a $40 million shortfall in total performance domestically, and even globally. These numbers are things you can't ignore. Will we see these numbers rise? I expect so. Is this going to be a film that's going to do as well as previous? I don't think so. And I think that global box office tells a story that sometimes is misleading, especially when it comes to locations like China. What the take home is for Disney, for James Cameron, For anybody involved in the production side of this film, it needs those domestic numbers. It needs that domestic performance. Avatar clearly wasn't it. The full weekend chart, as you can see here, is really the biggest, best part of the story. Avatar Fire and Ash at $88 million beats out David from Angel Studios by $66 million. That's really not a surprise. You're looking at 700 less theaters between the two. You're also looking at a tiny little studio as compared to Disney. Of course, they're releasing it under 20th Century. Lionsgate's $19 million. Again, not exactly a big competitor to Avatar, but still in 3,015 theaters did halfway decently. And finally, let's look at the other newcomer in Paramount Pictures, SpongeBob the movie. The search for SquarePants brought in $16 million in 3,300 theaters. And if anybody was going to be disappointed, it's probably Paramount, because I'm sure they expected to be a little more competitive than they were with David. And finally, let's take a look at number 5, Zootopia 2, at $14.5 million. Not exactly rocking it and not exactly rolling it. In fact, it's losing theaters and losing interest pretty rapidly. Last week, the film was number 1. This week, number 5. Five Nights at Freddy's is hanging in there with $7.2 million, still kind of at a point where it could be disappointing, and Wicked for Good is disappointing at only $4.3 million. Let's finally take a look at the thing I like to pay very close attention to, the entirety of the box office. In the 24 films that we have numbers for right now, we have $178 million in performance. What's interesting about that is if everything holds true, which it usually does through Sunday evening, $88 million of that performance is just one movie. And that just one movie is going to fall by at least 50% next weekend. Look, you can have positive thoughts all you want about Avatar. You may have even enjoyed the film. And if you did, let me know your thoughts about it down in the comments section below. But I wasn't inspired to see it. I had other things to do. And I think a lot of other people did as well. Going into the Christmas holidays, we always do. But do you think the numbers will go up for this film this week? Or do you think they will tail off? Do you think somehow over Christmas weekend things will get better? Or do you think they'll get worse? Do you think that overall performance for this film will not only be disappointing, but disheartening for Disney and most especially James Cameron? Because guess what? I do. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments section below. And again, if you want to venture an opinion on Avatar, if you got a chance to see it, let me know those thoughts as well. As always, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya. But probably not at the movies until next year.